Welcome back, everyone. Today we're going full-on space nerd as we take a deep dive into, well, the deep dive into the International Space Station.
Uh-huh. Very meta.
Right. So we're pulling information straight from a really detailed encyclopedia article all about the ISS. This thing is basically a giant history book and instruction manual all rolled into one.
Yeah, it's amazing how much information is packed in here, and it's fascinating to see just how much the station has evolved over time.
It really is. Okay, so for anyone who somehow hasn't caught a glimpse of this thing, the ISS is the largest space station ever built. We're talking a collaboration between 5 different space agencies: NASA, Roscosmos from Russia, JXA in Japan, the European Space Agency, and the Canadian Space Agency.
Talk about an international team effort. It's like the whole world decided to get together and say, let's build something incredible in space, and they actually pulled it off.
I know, right? And here's the really mind-blowing part. It's constantly staffed. Someone is always up there zipping around our planet every 90 minutes. A global village in orbit.
I mean, when you put it that way, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction. And to think, this incredible feat of engineering and global cooperation, it all started during the Cold War.
It's kind of hard to believe when you think about it like that.
Right. The U.S. and the Soviet Union, instead of, well, they decided to build something together in space.
A complete 180 from what you'd expect. But I'm guessing it wasn't all smooth sailing and handshakes.
Oh, definitely not.
Mhm.
I mean, both countries had their own plans, their own space station dreams. The U.S. was all about freedom, their own station, and the Soviets were working on Mir too.
Sounds like a space race part two.
Kind of, yeah. But then things got complicated. The U.S. had budget issues, and, well, the Soviet Union, well, things happened.
Collapsed.
Exactly. So both these big space dreams were kind of on shaky ground.
So how did we go from my space station is better than yours to this massive international collaboration? How did the ISS actually happen?
It's a good question. I think both sides just realized that on their own, it was going to be incredibly difficult, if not impossible. But by working together, combining their resources, their knowledge, they could create something truly special.
Pragmatism leading to something amazing.
Yeah, exactly. There was this shared ambition to push the boundaries of space exploration, and they knew that working together was the best way to make it happen.
So when did this partnership officially kick off? When did the ISS really become a reality?
The magic year was 1993. Al Gore, who was U.S. Vice President at the time, met with Viktor Chernomyrdin, the Russian Prime Minister. And that's where it all started. Talk about a historic handshake.
And what was their vision for the ISS? What were they hoping to achieve?
They had these incredibly ambitious goals. They wanted the ISS to be a state-of-the-art space lab, a unique observatory, and get this, a potential launching pad for missions even further out into space, to the moon, Mars, maybe even asteroids.
Wow, aiming high. So did they manage to achieve everything they set out to do?
Well, not everything. The ISS has definitely become the go-to spot for research in microgravity, figuring out what happens to the human body in space and all that. But those grand plans of it being a stepping stone to other planets haven't quite panned out, at least not yet.
I gotta say, whenever I hear International Space Station, my brain just goes straight to those amazing pictures of Earth from up there.
Yeah, who can resist a good Earthrise photo, right?
Right. But we're here to go deeper than just pretty pictures, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
The ISS is way more than just a really cool vantage point. I mean, it's a scientific marvel, a one-of-a-kind laboratory floating out there where they can do experiments you couldn't even dream of doing down here.
And that's all thanks to microgravity, right? Sometimes people call it weightlessness, but I feel like that doesn't quite capture it.
Yeah, it's a bit of an oversimplification. Microgravity is almost like stepping into a world with different rules of physics, Like, imagine a flame burning, but it's a perfect sphere.
Whoa, really?
Yeah. Or liquids behaving in ways they never would on Earth. Even the human body, starts to adapt to this environment in fascinating ways.
So it's not just about astronauts floating around having a good time.
Not even close.
Yeah.
It impacts everything from how crystals grow to, like I said, how our bones and muscles function. It's like this whole new playground for scientists to study things we just can't replicate down here.
What's something that's really surprised scientists? Something we've learned from all the microgravity research on the ISS?
One of the biggest surprises, at least for me, has been just how resilient some life forms are.
Wait, hold on. Are you saying there's life on the outside of the ISS, like exposed to space?
Well, Not exactly life as we usually think about it, but we're talking about these microscopic organisms, super tough bacteria, that can actually survive in the harsh conditions of space.
You're kidding. How is that even possible?
There's this type of bacteria, Deinococcus radiodurans. They're like the superheroes of the microbial world. Scientists found them just hanging out on the outside of the station, dealing with extreme temperatures, radiation, the vacuum of space, you name it, and they're just vibing.
That's insane. I mean, does that change how we think about the possibility of life on other planets? I mean, if bacteria can survive that, what else could be out there?
It definitely makes you wonder, right? This discovery gives a bit of a boost to this concept called panspermia.
Panspermia.
Yeah, it's this idea that life, or at least the building blocks of it, could be spread throughout the universe. Maybe hitching a ride on asteroids or comets.
So these little bacteria clinging to the ISS could give us clues about life elsewhere in the universe. Maybe even how life started here on Earth.
It's a mind-blowing thought, right?
Yeah.
But hey, while we're on the topic of the universe, it's not just about looking down at Earth. The ISS is also our window to the cosmos.
Oh yeah, it's a space observatory too.
Exactly. Because it's got this unobstructed view, right? It's become this valuable tool for studying things like solar flares, those bursts of energy from the sun and cosmic rays, these high-energy particles that are just zooming through space.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Oh, and I can't forget, the ISS even has this experiment on board called the Alpha Magnetic Spectrometer, AMS for short, and this thing is searching for evidence of dark matter.
Okay, dark matter, now you're just messing with me. That always sounded like something out of Star Trek.
Haha, I know, right? But think of it this way. Imagine this giant cosmic web that holds the entire universe together, right? We can see the strands of the web, but we can't see what the web itself is made of.
Okay, I'm kind of with you so far.
So that invisible stuff, the stuff we can't see directly, that's dark matter. We know it's there because of its gravity, but we still don't know what it is.
And this AMS experiment, it's trying to find out what this invisible web is made of.
Exactly. It's searching for those elusive particles that make up dark matter, trying to crack one of the biggest mysteries in the universe.
Every time we talk about the ISS, it's like it gets even more incredible. But let's shift gears a bit. Talk about the people in the middle of all this. What's it actually like to live and work in this, well, this extraordinary place? So we've talked about all the groundbreaking science happening on the ISS, the international teamwork. But let's be real. Living in space, even in this amazing sciencey space station, it can't be easy, right?
Mhm.
What's it like for the astronauts who actually live and work up there every single day?
Yeah, it's definitely not your typical day job, that's for sure. For one thing, no long hush hours in space, unfortunately.
Yeah. How do they even...
Astronauts use these special wipes for bathing,
Right.
and the toilets, well, let's just say they involve a bit of suction technology.
Okay, so maybe not the most glamorous living situation, but I guess when you're living in space, you learn to adapt. Plus, it makes you really appreciate how precious things like water are, right?
Absolutely. Every drop counts up there. Even eating is a whole different experience. We're talking about those vacuum-sealed food pouches you see in movies. Not exactly a home-cooked meal.
Right, so I guess Hollywood got that part right. No fresh cookies or gourmet dinners in orbit. But in all seriousness, what are some of the things astronauts say they miss the most about Earth? What do you think?
Besides the obvious stuff like family and friends and, maybe their favorite pizza place.
Who doesn't miss a good slice?
Right. One of the biggest things is simply having space. Literally. They're living in these confined quarters, far from home, with the same group of people from all these different cultures, 24/7.
It's like being on a permanent international expedition, but you're also, hurtling through space at thousands of miles per hour. There's got to be some psychological impact there, right?
Definitely. It's a huge challenge being isolated like that,
Yeah.
confined to a relatively small space, and the pressure of constantly performing these complex tasks in this high-risk environment. It takes a toll.
Wow, I can't even imagine. But the astronauts, they go through all this intense training, right? So they're prepared for all of this, not just physically, but mentally, too.
Exactly, they do. Astronauts have to be incredibly resilient, both physically and mentally. But one of the things they really emphasize is exercise. It's not just about staying in shape, it's crucial for their mental well-being, too.
How much exercise are we talking?
They aim for at least 2 hours every day.
2 hours. That's more than I get on my best day. But how do you even work out in space?
Well, the ISS has this specialized gym equipment designed for microgravity. Think treadmills, but with harnesses to keep the astronauts from floating away. And they've got resistance training machines, even stationary bikes.
Wait, a stationary bike in space? Okay, now I have to see a picture of that. So they've really thought of everything. But with all the demands of life on the ISS, the experiments, the exercise, you'd think there would at least be some peace and quiet up there, right?
You'd think so, wouldn't you? But it's actually surprisingly noisy.
Noisy. How so?
The station is constantly humming, literally. You've got the life support systems running, fans, pumps, all this stuff going 24/7. It's not exactly the most relaxing soundtrack.
Wow, so it's like trying to find peace and quiet inside a giant, constantly running machine? Okay, that paints a very vivid picture. But even with all those challenges, the ISS has been up there going strong for way longer than originally planned, right? It was supposed to be a 15-year mission.
Exactly. It really speaks to how well built it is and, of course, the dedication of the international teams who keep it running.
It's amazing. But what happens next? I mean, the ISS can't stay up there forever, right?
You're right. Right now, the plan is to deorbit the ISS in January 2031.
Deorb. Wait, are you saying they're going to crash it?
Not crash it exactly. It'll be a controlled deorbit, a safe descent into a remote part of the Pacific Ocean. They call it the spacecraft cemetery, which I have to admit is a pretty evocative name.
The spacecraft cemetery, it does have a certain ring to it.
Okay, so it's kind of bittersweet, the end of an era for the ISS. But does that mean the end of space stations altogether?
Not at all. We've just gotten started. There are already plans in the works for what comes after the ISS, and it's super exciting.
Like what?
Well, there's Axiom Station, a commercially developed space station. How cool is that? And here's the really interesting part. Axiom is going to start as a module attached to the ISS, and then eventually it'll detach and become its own independent station.
Wow, a private space station. It sounds like something out of a movie. So the future of space exploration is, well, it's looking pretty bright.
It really is. And NASA's also getting in on the action with its commercial EO destinations program. Basically, they're supporting the development of even more private space stations in low Earth orbit. So we could have multiple space stations up there, each with their own unique focus and goals. It's incredible to think about. It really has been amazing diving deep into the world of the ISS, from its Cold War beginnings to life on board to what the future holds. We've covered so much groundbreaking science, incredible stories of human resilience, international cooperation. It's really inspiring.
The ISS really is a testament to human ingenuity and our drive to explore. I mean, think about it. We built this incredible laboratory in space.
It makes you wonder, was it all worth it? The cost, the challenges, the risks, was it worth it to build and maintain this incredible station in space? And that's a question for you, our listeners. What do you think? We'd love to hear your thoughts. And until next time, keep looking up, keep asking questions, and we'll see you on the next deep dive.